question number 16. It says, besides the welfare schemes, India needs deft management of inflation and unemployment to serve the poor and the underprivileged sections of the society. You know, this unemployment thing been in news so much on the last 4-5 months that definitely thought that this will be part of the GS paper 2 this time, because this time this unemployment was talked in terms of governance, and therefore we had the question also in our mains test series, critically examine the recent public policy initiatives aimed at addressing the problem of unemployment in India. So now, whenever you get any such question, all of you, here it is talking about inflation, it is talking about unemployment. So here again, this question will also have 3 parts. Now, whenever you get such question, where if you have the data to substantiate your answer, then in intro you can start with the data. Since it is talking about the kind of, yes, of unemployment, then inflation, it is talking about how it is hindering the progress of your poor people. So it is hindering the progress of the poor people. Then here in this case, we can start with the data that as per the OPHI, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiatives, and UNDP, about 22.5% of the Indians are extremely poor. So 2.5% of the Indians are extremely poor. So out of 1.4 billion people, more than 22.5%. So about 22.5% means it stands around 30 crores. So around 30 crores of people, they are extremely poor. Then second, you can talk about the unemployment rate. So India's unemployment rate surged to a 1-year high of 8.3% in August this year. So India's unemployment rate surged to a 1-year high of 8.3% in August this year. So again the next quote. So here this data you can quote 8.3% unemployment rate, and here all of you can add one more thing, that India's retail inflation crossed 7% in August this year. These data, they shows the kind of importance of the question and the situation it is talking about. Here we can see 30 crores of people, they are extremely poor. Unemployment rate hovering to 8.3%. Then your retail inflation crossing 7%. In fact, the inflation on vegetables and spices, etc., they crossed 10%. So people, they are already poor. We have just seen you are providing benefits in DBT. Okay, we know that yes, you are providing benefits, but if you are providing benefits and the inflation is so higher, then how those benefits will actually benefit the beneficiaries? Then retail inflation, unemployment. So you can start with this. Then here in body, okay, first of all, you can talk about the benefits of welfare schemes to the poor people. You can talk about the benefits of welfare schemes to poor people. Second, this how this unemployment and inflation, they are a kind of menace to the society. And third, the problems arising out of them, other problems arising out of them. And then again here in the conclusion, the way forward, that is what must be the initiatives of the government in order to tackle the problems of unemployment and inflation. So first part, all of you, welfare scheme serves the poor and the underprivileged in the following ways. Since it is talking about the poor people and it is mentioning the welfare schemes, then definitely welfare schemes, it provides basic needs like food and housing, reduces the expenditure on health and education as seen through right to education and PM Jan Arogya Yojana. Then enables social mobility, protection against the social and economic discrimination. So welfare schemes, definitely they act as a kind of protection against the social and economic discrimination, and it gives financial independence to women and others. Thus it counters the inequality. Whenever you have any confusion, okay, you can just go through the question again. Besides the welfare schemes, remember it is talking about besides the welfare scheme, India needs debt management. So it is clearly saying besides the welfare schemes, India needs debt management of inflation and unemployment. So first, yes, you should talk about the benefits of welfare schemes, and then how those benefits, as I said, they are not benefiting the people actually to that extent which it is intended to, because of your unemployment and inflation. Inflation and unemployment. Inflation and unemployment, what does it leads to? It leads to poor income. Definitely when the income will be poor, then it will lead to erosion of purchasing power. People won't have money, how they will be purchasing? And when they won't be purchasing, it will lead to shrink in the consumption, shrink in the consumption expenditure, and then shrinking in the consumption expenditure will lead to poor living standards, and poor living standards will increase in social stigmatization, domestic violence, poor health and nutrition. And it will further kind of strengthen the demographic dividend, and therefore the growth suffers, and finally it leads to poor economic performance. So how this unemployment and inflation is a kind of menace to the society, through this chart you can clear it. Now the need for debt management. Why India needs? Here, India needs debt management, that is skilled, clever, smart management of inflation and unemployment. Why? As I said, counter the impact of purchasing power of the poor, which reduces with rising inflation. High inflation and unemployment directly leads to shrinking of consumption expenditure. Now here, to avoid debt traps, because in order to increase their purchasing power or to make their both ends meet, the poor people, they fall under this debt trap and they take loans to maintain the minimum standard of living. Now this statement, all of you, this is important, that malnutrition grows with high poverty, and its effect is hardest to reverse in children. Now the effect of malnutrition is hardest to reverse in children. So all of you see, the thing is, there are few problems which you think that with time, okay, you will get rid of those problems. But here malnutrition, these kind of things, they cannot be reversed. So if they cannot be reversed, then definitely this is a kind of deterrence in the growth of the children, in the growth of the society. Then good employment provides sustainable income and enables inclusive growth, while see, this is the benefit of good employment, that it provides sustainable income and enables inclusive growth. Quality employment ensures social security, while unemployment now derails it. So the benefits of good employment, quality employment, social security, financial inclusion and all, and then while employment completely derails it. And then enable capability development and promote investment on the education and health of the children. Now government is launching so many different schemes which are focused on the education and health of the children, but until or unless this unemployment and inflation, these problems they are countered, okay, those schemes, they will not have that positive effect, because their positive effects, they are countered by unemployment and inflation. So here, to make those schemes also effective, you need to control inflation and reduction in unemployment. Now here, all of you, there is a study by United Nations Women that there is a direct relationship between unemployment and domestic violence. So there is a direct relation between unemployment and domestic violence. So unemployment, all of you, unemployment, it leads to domestic violence, or here you can say rather domestic violence is directly proportional to unemployment. Domestic violence is directly proportional to unemployment as well as the crime. Okay, the increase in crime rate, the rise in crime rate, one of the major reason behind it is the unemployment. So here leads to overall increase in the crime rate. To counter the cyclical poverty challenges, because they remain in debt trap and also the poverty cycle, they cannot get out of that poverty cycle. And we talk about the demographic dividend. Okay, we talk about the man force, we talk about the manpower, that we have the world's largest man force. But the thing is that man force, until or unless it is constructively utilized, it will act as a kind of what? It can act as a kind of disaster. It can act against the development of the country. See, increase in crime rate, different kind of protests and all, your burning of public properties, these kind of things, they definitely act against the nation's growth and development. Now, and the way forward. So here, way forward, you talk about proactive government intervention like universal basic income is needed. So universal basic income, it is the need of the hour, cannot be delayed further. Then information repository and dissemination system is required to check food and fuel inflation. Food and fuel inflation. That is the reason for the increase in the prices, and that is the major reason for the other problem. So information repository and dissemination system is required to check food and fuel inflation. At least this must be checked and controlled. Definitely then other things will fall in line. Then policies to increase employment in rural areas and urban employment policies is required. So there must be a separate rural, policy, unemployment policy, urban unemployment policy. There are so many vacancies in the public sector. Those vacancies must be filled on the priority basis. The youth is mobilized, okay, whenever there is a kind of any vacancy or opening for any government job, then the youth is mobilized constructively, positively. Otherwise the same youth, okay, will be misguided and it will act as a kind of misguided missile. Then focus on the network products and incorporation of assemble in India in Make in India is required. So not only Make in India, assemble in India is required to create quality jobs, because you need to increase jobs, public sector as well as private sector. And then reduction in income inequality, because in India there is a huge gap in terms of income, okay, at different level. That must be reduced. And then the concentration of wealth among few at the top. So top 1% of the population they are enjoying, and the bottom 30% they are suffering. Then next, strengthening of public distribution of essential commodities among the poor. So it is talking about the welfare schemes also, started with the question. So other public distribution mechanism, it must be strengthened. And then increase in the average daily wage rate in rural India and providing job security. See, according to the inflation, the wage rate must be also increased. Otherwise, if inflation is rising and the wage remains same, definitely there will be a problem, there will be a gap. So increase in wage rate as well as job security. People must feel secure about the job. Then only they will be positively inclined towards participating in it. And then finally, India is a nation beaming with demographic dividend and a strategic window to rise on the global fora. Policy measures which will significantly minimize the cost of living and reduce the impact of inflation on the poor and create quality job is required. And here you can further write down to achieve the goal of what? Antyodaya se Sarvodaya. अंत्योदय से सर्वोदय. Sarvodaya, development of all. Antyodaya, last man's development. So last person's development will ensure that yes, all are developed. So unemployment is checked, inflation is checked, definitely along with welfare schemes, it will help in reaching the goal. So this way you can conclude your answer. This way you can conclude answer. So here this was the answer of the mains test series question. Critically examine the recent public policy initiatives aimed at addressing problem of unemployment. High rate of employment, failed to tackle job loss, regional divide and all.